Hey everybody, this is Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And I'm a nice draft. Devin called me that earlier, and I was like, that's the nicest thing anyone said to me in a little while. That's probably sad, but, that's okay.
And you're watching episode 138 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.
Drafts are awesome. They can, kick their hind legs and kick off a lion's head.
I mean, their hind legs, their front legs. It's not like a roundhouse kick, just a straight, forward.
Oh, that's even better.
It is even better, yeah.
Imagine if you were strong enough to kick people's heads off. That'd be crazy.
It would be. What are we talking about today, Victoria?
We're going to be talking about the two-parter in albums 60, 70, 92.
Yep.
In album 92. David and Absalom, part 1 and 2. What album is this again?
64.
That's what I was going to say, but I thought I'd be wrong. Okay. We're doing this one kind of weirdly because we didn't want to separate the two-parter. So we're going to be doing Sir Buddy's Snowy Day when we do Out of the Picture. Which is going to be our next review.
Nope.
Which is going to be the review after our next review.
Correct.
I got
so
the
we got
other
to talk
parts,
about
right?
Macy and her big cake next time.
Wait. Oh!
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have to get to Meta's match.
Yes.
We have to get to Whit's Women.
Oh man, that's episode. That's out yet. That's
It
out
is.
now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been out for 2 weeks.
I need to listen to it. I know what I'm gonna do. It's actually
You're gonna study.
I have to finish Robinson Crusoe first. For school. That's why it's right beside me.
So, David and Absalom, Victoria. A two-parter. Wait. News. We forgot we said this at the end of the last episode. News! We said this at the end of the last episode, but we should say at the beginning, because that's when we say news. It appears that Kathy's episode for the AIOC this year, later, Divided We Fall, has been moved from that docket, is probably getting moved to album 65, which will come out this fall, by which I mean this summer on the AIOC, and is being replaced with an episode from Sam Suxiri called Always Do Your Best-ish.
No, it makes me nervous.
The fact that there's an episode about Buck and Eugene called Divided We Fall.
And the fact that it's written by Kathy. Because that means extra feels.
And the fact that they moved it from the AIOC to the album, which means it's important.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of contributing nerve factors going on here.
Oh, we're all gonna die.
There's a lot of affluent nerves feeding into this bundle.
We're all gonna die.
A lot of sympathetic nerves.
Can you do the voice of that lady from Atlantis and be like, we're all gonna die? I can't do it. I can't remember what she sounds like.
That's okay. What happens in David and Absalom, Victoria? It's episode 835 and 836, both written by Phil Lawler.
As people who have listened to all of our episodes, and if not, why haven't you? No, I didn't know who Absalom was before this episode.
Who did you think Absalom was?
I had no idea. I thought maybe a warrior. I was thinking some kind of warrior. Definitely not related to David. I didn't guess that at all. Or I thought maybe a prophet or something like that. He was going to chew David out a bit more for something.
So, second...
I figured a warrior and they were, in a fight or something. I had no idea.
First, Second Samuel, Chronicles and Kings, is, not in that order, obviously.
Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is, almost... are the books of the Bible that's almost the longest since I've read them. Because last time I went through the Bible was, full in order, front to back.
You did the sprinkler the last time.
Exactly, I did the wave. And right now I'm on Deuteronomy. So I've gone almost...
Deuteronomy.
I've gone almost all the way around, so it's been a very long time since I've read this story. All that I really remembered going into it was that Absalom...
Spoilers. Listen to the episode.
This is a review.
Spoilers for history. And a book that's been out for, a really long time.
All I really remembered about Absalom, I mean, obviously I knew he was David's son,
I didn't know.
But I remembered that he like tried to take over Israel, and that he died because he was like riding a horse, and then his super long hair got caught in a tree. And I actually thought that he died because he got like hung by his hair, like his neck got caught up in his hair while he was hanging from the tree, and he died like Clayton in Tarzan.
You must remember what happened to his sister because you were able to.
Well, yeah, I mean
Tell me
that's
about
kind
that.
of like a whole thing.
Is that like a different story?
Yeah, I mean, I always get confused in my memory between like the rape of Tamar and the rape of Dinah.
Oh, I've heard it like called that before.
Because
in that context,
it's
I
like
remember what
both
it's called.
groups of enormous amounts of siblings where there's like one prominent sister, and then that happens, except with Dinah, when it was like all of Jacob's children, then they went and they're like, oh, don't worry, we'll let you marry her because you did that. You just have to circumcise yourself and everyone in your village. And then they did that. They all circumcised themselves, and then they went in and killed them all because they just circumcised themselves and they couldn't walk. And they're like, yeah, don't do that to our sister. And it was a beautiful justice moment in history. This one,
ultimate prank show pranks of the Bible.
Murdering someone after tricking them into circumcising themselves, yeah. This one was even worse because it was perpetrated by her brother. So,
I didn't know what was going on. Like,
yeah,
they never said in the episode, so I had to ask Devin, because the way they worded it, I was like, I have a feeling they're not going to say what it is, so it must be pretty bad. Also, when I hear, like, stories that say, like, the rape of blah, 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 if it's older than, like, current day, I've grown accustomed to assuming it's talking about kidnapping that person, because that is what rape meant originally. What?
Did it?
Yeah. I'd read this play, or this short story, like, in English course last year, and it was called The Rape of the Lock, and it was about how this guy had a crush on this girl. He was, like, really sleazy, and he, like, stole a lock of her hair while she was, out sleeping, I think.
Well, I think that's not to do with
like
kidnapping, it's to do with stealing, because it's like you're like plundering resources.
The Sodom woman? What's it? Seven Brides of Seven Brothers, what's that called? Sodom woman, that's it. So the Sodom woman in the Bible, when I was learning about that in Greek history class, it was called the rape of the Sodom woman. And my teacher said, like,
the sobbing woman?
Sodom. S-A-B.
What is this?
It's like a Greek thing.
Then why'd you say in the Bible?
It's also in the Bible. It's, like, brought up in those things. I know it's in the Bible or it's mentioned in the Bible at least, because they talk about it in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. There's like a song around it, and it's really catchy. Go listen to it. But
sounds terrible.
But well, it's because all of this group of people who, what came right after Troy? So like the people who escaped Troy, they made a new place, but they didn't have enough women, so they had to kidnap women and bring them over. And then all the women's husbands found out about that and were understandably upset. But all the women got Stockholm Syndrome and they didn't want to leave. And the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
And so in Seven Brides with Seven Brothers, Adam, the oldest of the seven brothers, is like, hey, I read the Bible because my wife is a Christian and she told me to. And I read this story about where they kidnap these women and they get to keep the women in the end, even though they did a bad thing. So we're going to go into the village and we're all going to go get you wives. And then they kidnap all these girls and the exact same thing happens.
Yeah, I don't think that's in the Bible.
I'll look it up. Anyway, in learning about that, it was called The Rape of the Sodom Woman, but it was about kidnapping and also about sleeping with them without their consent. Same thing with when I learned about the beginning of Troy and Helen got kidnapped. It was called The Rape of Helen, and it was because she got kidnapped.
All right. So what
Just
happens?
Take my word for it.
What happens in these episodes, Victoria?
Wait,
Well, We'll do it after. We still haven't, like, finished opening the episode yet.
Based on an Old Testament story.
Alright, you tell it while I look at this. Sabine.
No, it's Sabin.
Alright.
So in this episode, it's Emily and Matthew, and they're talking about hero worship and why and they're, like, talking about their heroes. There's a shout-out to that earlier episode where the two of them are in a competition, and then Wooten has to choose which one he wants to, like, run that camp for him, because the pop star that Olivia was a big fan of is brought up in this again, and Olivia's like, she's my hero. Matthew's like, why can't you have sensible heroes like King David? And I'm like, yes, because King David never did anything wrong. I know that, and I love you, kind of thing. And,
See, yeah, that's what I thought.
What?
Is it based on an Old Testament story? Actually, it's based on an old Roman legend.
Oh, okay. Then why does it... Is it just in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers that they talk about it being in the Bible, then?
Yeah, it says, actually, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers is based on old Roman legend.
Okay. Then, Then Seven Brides for Seven Brothers got it wrong. Because
They weren't terribly educated.
I could have told you that. Anyway, so then Matthew's like, my heroes are better than yours. And Olivia's like, you suck. And then they get in this fight, and Whit puts them in a story in the Imagination Station, and I was like, yes, Imagination Station. I'm convinced they have a wire at Focus. Can you hear me right now? Hi Kathy, hi Phil, hi Nathan.
I like your...
And they can hear what I say, but only me, because all my predictions keep on being right, and Devin's not good.
when you said, like, before I listened to the episode, and we were like, oh man, like, all my predictions keep coming true, and I was trying to figure out what you're talking about, and then turned out your prediction was, they're going to make an episode about the Imagination Station, and I was like,
I'm so
wow,
smart,
Victoria,
Devin.
they never would have done that without you saying
I
it.
know.
There probably
You're
never
welcome.
would have been another Imagination Station episode again.
Yeah, but you have to admit, I got a lot of predictions right.
In general,
That are,
yes,
like-
but this is the
I
least
know,
case
but
on
I
that
also-
list.
Jay's also in an episode of this album, and I was like, Jay came back recently.
Yeah, but this is not that review.
And then also the I know, but I listened to those ones back to back. Anyway, so then they go into this Bible story, and then Olivia sees Absalom, David's son, who's in exile, and she's just like, hot diggity dang, look at that pretty man. And then
that is a baller prince.
yeah, and then they find out that Absalom did some bad stuff, which we kind of already talked about a little bit. Actually, no, we never talked about him in that context. We will after. And then they kind of separate. Olivia goes with Absalom, and Matthew goes with David, and they both find out, like, those respected people's sides in who was right and who was wrong. In, like, David banishing his son. And then they meet up at the end and they exchange information, and then, yeah, that's for the most part where it ends. It ends with Absalom being like, oh, I'm going back to see my father. And, like, cartoon lightning flashes, and they're like, but, like, you're gonna not do anything bad, right? Says Olivia. And he's just like, oh, of course not. And then it ends in $1 billion. And yeah. I've never seen any Austin Powers movies, but I did watch a compilation of all the bits with his son, like the bad guy's son, because he's really funny.
So, yeah, that's part one. I guess we can talk about them separately. It's going to be kind of hard to separate them from mine. I
Okay,
guess,
we don't
but-
have to talk about them separately then. Part two, Olivia and Matthew, there's like a time jump of 2 years.
Mhm.
And then they switch sides, so Matthew goes with Absalom and Olivia goes with David, and like Matthew and Olivia both rescue each other at one point. And then David's like, oh man, my son, I gotta deal with him. And Absalom's like, I've amassed an army because I am the worst, TM. And I'm going to come after you and murder you. Ha ha ha.
Murder? Absalom, no.
Absalom, no!
It's funny because it's the Bible.
No one's gonna touch with me.
I'm sure some people get it.
Maybe one other person. But anyway, so then Absalom, he brings a whole new meaning to the term ride or die. Because he's riding and then he dies. Get it? Get it? Oh! Devin
I was talking about Olivia,
the same thing. Yeah, but my joke is funnier. And
yours is much funnier, yes.
And so Absalom dies, and oh my gosh, there's this character in this episode who's played by Andrei Stoica, except for he, like, doesn't really change his voice at all from Whit's voice.
And by doesn't really, she
so
means
confusing.
he doesn't.
He like kind of pronounces things like a little bit differently, but it sounds basically the exact same. Like, I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, so I was listening really closely. It does sound a little bit different, but it's basically the exact same thing. Like, I was really confused, and I was kind of thinking, like, why isn't everyone calling him Whit? What's going on? Because, like, you can usually tell when it's, like, a main person doing a voice, except for, like, the main crew is so good at doing different voices.
Finish the explanation so that we can actually, I can chime in.
So then the thing ends, the Imagination Station adventure ends, and Matthew and Olivia are like, we learned that the real heroes are the siblings we made along the way. And then they become each other's heroes. I'm like, what did you twerps just learn about hero worship? Whit said, no one but God. Whit should have, like, smacked him outside the head.
Thou shalt have no other idols before me, except for your siblings, I guess. What ifs?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Exodus 20, verse 4, probably.
Yeah, it says probably.
Yeah.
Too. And yeah, then the episode ends. And if I was Whit, I would have been like, no, I said no hero worship. Now you're just like,
it's gonna be
coming up with heroes out the wazoo.
It's gonna be like Idle Minds all over again. They're gonna build robots of each other.
I love my sibling and appreciate them as a human being so much. They're just so good.
A chocolate Olivia.
No. No,
I really like how Eugene's idea of, like, American pastimes is just chocolate and football.
Imagine, like, in a different context, why I don't want a sibling to make a chocolate version of another sibling. Imagine Griffin made a chocolate version of his brothers.
Yeah, I was hoping that was the one place you weren't going to go, Victoria.
That's what you said, though.
That's exactly what I said.
How we share a brain. How would, like, I not go there?
Yeah, I know.
Anyway. Part 1. These are written by Phil. Did you say that?
I did.
Okay.
So yeah, Imagination Station, finally. It's been a while.
Devin starts off his review as Victoria's right.
Yeah, I need to stop doing that because your eyes, like, hone into it Terminator style.
That's the only part I looked at, though.
I know.
It was so great. I was like, oh, that's a nice way to start the video.
I really am glad it was Imagination Station because I've missed sorely the awesome sounds of this model. And it's been so long.
Miss all the doors. Actually, I don't remember any door things in this.
I mean, they went through a door when they started it.
Yeah, but there were like 5 billion doors. 5 billion doors.
They didn't mention it, I don't think. I think we're past that point where they're like, okay, we get it. There's doors. It's like the Adjustment Bureau.
Do you think they forgot? They're like, oh, we forgot to put more doors in this.
I believe this is the 3rd time that we've used the already know you function for people in the Imagination Station. Its debut was in the 2-part St. Paul episodes in 24 with Sam and Rodney.
Are you sure we haven't used it more?
And Emily was the babysitter in Great Expectations. I'm pretty sure those are the only 2 times, and this is the 3rd one.
I thought there'd be more. Were there any with Your Servant Is Listening?
I don't think so.
No, there weren't. Never mind.
So yeah, they find Olivia just goes hog wild over Absalom.
I know, it was really funny because
Especially,
I was thinking, like, no one reacts like this. And I was like, actually, the first time I saw the guy who played Adam in the new Beauty and the Beast, this was pretty much my reaction, in all seriousness. Like, not in the movie, because he doesn't... Somehow, he's not as attractive in the movie, but, like, outside the movie,
No,
he's
Victoria
really
talks... People talk so much about him, and I watched the movie, and I was like, and then I saw
I know,
him
and
in
then
real
I was
life,
like,
and
no,
I was like...
whoa. I was like, no, like, you have to... It's embarrassing because I saw the movie with Gabe, and then I was, like, building it up every single time he showed up, and she was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, no, I swear that's not what he looks like.
I know.
That's not fair.
When I saw what he, like, actually looked like in real life, I was shook.
Dang, that is one pretty boy.
But yeah, it was so funny, this coming immediately after Sir Buddy's Snowy Day, which I know we haven't talked about yet, but it is chronologically before this, so I feel like it's fair.
We can talk about that in Sir Buddy's Snowy Day.
Not only... No, but it's so funny because it fits so well together, because not only is it Olivia and, like, insta-crush, but it's this whole thing of, like, you instantly fall for someone in infatuation before you even find out if they're a good person or not, or if they share the same interests with you.
Yeah.
Because it's the exact same thing. Olivia did it, and then she's like, what do you mean he killed his brother and wants to take over the country and kill his father
seriously,
and all of his
like,
followers?
Absalom had so many bad vibes. Like,
yeah.
The entire time I was like, I don't trust this. I was like, he has a nice voice, and I'm sure he's pretty handsome. I'm imagining him as, Chris Hemsworth, which I'll get to in a minute. I'll explain why. That's why I imagine him looking like. I'm like, okay, yeah, he's handsome and he has a nice voice, but like, what do you know about him? There must be a reason why he was banished, because David. Okay,
you know who else was banished, Victoria?
David's done
Zuko.
some. That's a cartoon. This is real. This is real life.
So.
But, like, David has done...
Zuko's real life to all of us.
David's done some bad stuff, but he would have at least, I'm hoping, after everything with Uriah, he would have given a good reason for banishing this person, I'm thinking. So, like, I wasn't just blindly going like, oh yeah, I'm sure he did nothing wrong. I was like, okay... Why did you get banished? Like, what did you do that
Okay, but also, as far as I'm aware,
bad?
Absalom was 100% justified both morally and under the law in what he did to be
honestly,
exiled.
I was wondering what your opinion on that was, because I was thinking, like, I know, I was, like, I felt so bad. I was thinking about it. I was like, on one hand, I'm totally on his side about what he did.
And also, like he said, the law demands, like, you do that to someone, you gotta die. And David didn't do anything, and the Bible makes it clear, I checked, that David knew what happened to his daughter, and yet there's no record of him doing anything. We should
kind of explain what happened, because we didn't explain what Absalom's part in that was for people who don't know the story.
Well, they should have listened to the episode.
Yeah. David's daughter was abused by his son. Amnon, and so Absalom killed Amnon.
Because David didn't do squat.
Do anything.
The lesson of this episode
Who does the Bible say?
Discipline your children.
Who does the Bible say is in the right?
I mean, it doesn't, like, it just says what happened. It's like, hey, this happened, David didn't do anything, and Absalom did. And then he got kicked out.
Yeah.
Those chronicles and stuff are more about, like, you know, chronicling things than, like, making narrate, like, you know, it's just like, here's what happened objectively.
This is, like, a very difficult position, because, like...
I don't think it's that hard. Absalom did the right thing.
No, like, the law says one thing, but there's also, like... But that guy did something, like, horrible, and it made me really upset. But on the one hand, the law says, like, you have to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then David was like, I'm going to show you grace. But I still think he should have gone, like, to prison and not have been allowed to leave. Not just... It sounds
Are you
like...
talking about Absalom or Amnon?
Amnon. because it's bad to kill people.
Okay, but we are talking about
But-
Old Testament law, which is like you are
That's
supposed
true.
to kill the person.
Okay. But
Trust me, Victoria, I'm reading Deuteronomy right now.
I know, I'm
You
trying to figure
sneeze
out.
and you're supposed to be stoned to death.
I'm trying to figure out like David's position in all this, because Absalom is a bad guy. He's not.
Here's the thing though.
He's not a super great person. He like tried to
The whole
murder
Yeah,
everyone.
but he still did the right thing, I believe, in this instance. The whole thing of this
Yeah.
story is like, Olivia's like, he did the right thing and David's evil. And Matthew's like, no, David did the right thing and Absalom's evil. And I
And
instantly
it's like
thought of that one.
Neither of them did.
I
the
instantly
right
thought of that SNL thing, and so I made this. It was like, they both did bad things, and they both did good things because they're human beings, and that's the whole point of this
Yeah.
episode, is that hero worship is like,
This-
some people do good things, but they also do bad things, because that's
Yeah.
how humans be.
They were definitely both in the wrong about a lot of things.
Absalom
and, like,
was, objectively speaking, Absalom was more in the wrong overall.
Yeah.
But he still had good parts in there, and David still had bad parts in there.
I agree with that statement. This episode is about like gray moralism, and that's not something we always get in Odyssey. So I think that's
I don't,
good. What?
I mean, not really. That's a different
I mean,
thing than
well,
this.
yeah, but it touches on like how nobody's perfect.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing as what you just
I
said.
know. I meant the other thing though. But
Nobody's perfect.
yeah, we spent this last couple days
Binging The Good
separately
Place.
watching all The Good Place. Devin watched it in 24 hours by himself, and then right after he was almost done season 2, I started watching it and then finished it in like under a day, which I should have been doing homework, but I wasn't. It was a good show, so I don't regret it though.
Yeah. To me, the theme of the episode, besides, teaching the story and what happened,
The theme is ride or die.
the themes are about, like, hero worship and how even though people have done good things, they've also done bad things because that's how people are.
Mm-hmm.
Except for God and Jesus, and everyone else is like, hey, you've done bad things. And they went through the same list that they did in Heroes in Album 3. Like, Abraham lied.
Okay,
and
can I
Moses
just
disobeyed.
say
I like in
that,
the credits
like-
for this. In Heroes, he's like, Moses disobeyed, which is the reason that Moses didn't get to go
to the promised land.
Yeah, because he struck the rock instead of yelling at the rock, which I still think is
No, wasn't
kind
it
of
the fact that like he let people boss him around about not wanting to like go? I thought
No.
that's why.
no.
Wait, when he gave people water, he did it wrong.
One of the times, yeah, because usually when he
Wait,
gave
I'm
water,
confused.
usually
I thought it was like the fact that they went there and then they saw the people, and some of the people
that
were
was
like,
everyone else.
they're really sketchy.
Yeah.
And then Moses was just like, okay, yeah, you're right, we should leave. And I thought like
No,
everyone
Moses got
collectively
mad at them.
got in
That's the
trouble.
reason why everyone else in Israel didn't get to go there.
Can you
but the
imagine
reason-
if like Moses ditched them? They would have all gone lost.
That was the reason for everyone else except for Moses. The reason for him was that normally when they needed water, God's like, go punch that rock. And he did that.
Go punch that rock.
Go punch it with
Moses.
your stick. And he did that. And then one time, God was like, hey, go yell at that rock. And Moses hit it with the stick because he felt like he would be silly to yell at the rock. So he did it with the stick because that's the way he was used to doing it. And God's like, don't disobey me. You are now
It's
going to
like-
die before you go to the promised land. I was like, I'm always like, that's a
It's-
little extreme, maybe, I feel.
He turned the rock into like a bop it, and he just wanted to see how far Moses would
Hit
go.
Twist it, crack it. Yeah,
Yell
no.
it.
As far as everything
Shout
that
it.
Moses did in his life, I always feel like that was a bit of an extreme reaction. On
I
God's
feel like
part,
there are
but
a
I
lot
don't know, he knows
worse
better
of
than I do.
things that Moses
But the
has done.
funny thing is, I mean, that was his
well.
that was his big moment or whatever. At the end of this episode, though, when they talk about Moses, they're like, Moses killed a man. I was like, yeah, but that was
doesn't
pretty.
have anything to do with this.
That was also pretty justified. I mean, he was saving someone. He was self-defense. Well, not self-defense. It was another.
self-defense on someone else's
It was another
part.
person defense.
Yeah.
He was saving someone's life from like someone who was being like abusive and killing them. So like.
And Moses shouts down from heaven, "That wasn't my fault. I was forgiven for that. I apologize."
Yeah.
It was the other thing I did.
Anyway, I made multiple mistakes.
I shouted at the rock. I didn't shout at the rock.
He did shout at the rock.
Wait,
sorry, no.
no,
He hit the rock. Yeah,
shout
sorry.
at the rock.
Yes, he was supposed to say
Unless you're lying to me.
Yeah, no.
Anyways,
so there's that theme, but also...
Sorry, you keep on going. I was going to say something else.
Themes of the episode. There's that. Now it's all going to slip out
There's
of my mind.
Po Buddy's Nerfect.
Mm-hmm.
And...
I think there's the theme of, like, you know, understanding, like, the need to discipline people. Like, David was going too soft on his kids because they were his kids.
I think he was going too soft on a lot of people related to kids, kind of. Except for that one. No,
What does related to kids mean?
No, because there's, like, that one lady, and she's like, my son killed my other son, but, like, he said YOLO and apologized and skated away on his skateboard, so,
on
like,
his Heelys.
Can he get off?
The Heelys were the murder
Can
weapon.
he get off on his punishment? And then David was just like, Po Buddy's Nerfect. And the guy got off. And she's like, why don't you do this for your son? And he's just like, hey, why don't you mind your own business?
Yeah. That is what happened, yeah. And it's true, I mean, if it was an accidental killing, then he could seek refuge in, like, the cities of refuge or whatever, but it was not, so...
It's a nice missed reference.
What?
I said nice missed reference.
What did I say?
Cities of refuge. Wait, no, that might be a different thing.
That's a reference to the Bible.
Yeah, I know, but isn't there a place named Refuge in, like, a video game
Nope,
or
that's
something?
the Adventure Zone. No, I was talking about the Bible because that is a thing in Mosaic Law, Victoria.
What? I'm learning so much today, honestly. Devin's embarrassed to be related to me, but that's okay. I'm a nice draft. And
there was other stuff in there, but I'm gonna circle back to it because I forgot it for the moment. It'll come back to me later.
So the reason I was imagining Absalom as Chris Hemsworth for the entire thing was because Olivia's like, oh my gosh, he's so hot. He's so hot. Look at his long hair. And then and she's like, no, he's getting a haircut. He's even more hot. And I was like, that was my reaction to Thor Ragnarok.
The worst possible name for this episode would have been? The least accurate?
The big haircut.
The dangerous haircut.
What about Tangled? I was like, when we got to the end where Absalom died, I was like, could you imagine how different of a movie Tangled would have been if Rapunzel was riding on Maximus and then she got choked out by her hair when she went past a tree?
I mean, honestly, the most unbelievable thing about Tangled is how well she was able to maintain her hair while running through the woods in the city.
That's why I really like the Hizzy for Tangled, because there's just, like, mud and trees, and then Gollum.
I mean, at least
like,
when she got to the
city,
hair. She did, like, an extremely dense braid, so it would only be, like, her height
I mean,
length.
she also has the braid for the entire animated show. But I think that might also have to do with, like...
The animation difficulty.
Honestly, she takes out her hair a lot in that show.
I was gonna say, it'd be funny if she
think
just,
it's completely the animation.
for ease of animation, they just made her wear a hat the whole
No,
time.
I think they have a pretty solid budget on that show, and then they also have her take her hair down and use it as a weapon a lot.
So the haircut, yeah. Olivia sees Absalom,
it's a
and she was like,
dangerous haircut. She's like having a heart attack. She's
Yeah.
like, he's too handsome, I need life support.
And
she
then-
falls over, and Absalom's like, are you alright? She's like, give me CPR, please.
and then he cuts his hair, and she's just like, no, like Breaking Bad. No. Yeah, she was like full on Cecil Baldwin anger,
freaking out, and then but like, yeah, I couldn't really fault her. At first, I was like, no one acts like this, and then I thought when I first saw Adam's actor, and I was like, wait, nope, never mind.
So Absalom is in exile. So Matthew has been planted in the story as the page, the squire.
He's the page master, Devin.
For Joab.
Macaulay Culkin.
For Joab. So they go to see David, and Joab is sneaky, and he plants this lady in the court, and she's like, yo, Dave, I got your receipts. Why don't you bring back Absalom?
My joke was funnier.
I loved... I don't know if you heard this, but yeah, when someone said, like, why don't you bring back Absalom, very faintly in the background, someone was like, oh. I just lost it.
Honestly, what an icon. I want to be that person. Honestly, like, seriously though, that would be me. You'd probably get killed for doing something like that in the Kingsport, but it's just so funny.
It will take you outside of Jerusalem and stone you to death.
The kind of person...
Hundo P worth it.
The kind of person who would do that is the same kind of person who, like, wrote on old walls and scrolls that we found later of Pompeii, like, hey, your mom sucks, or something, like, all those old-timey insults, and, like, all that really fun. Seriously, go look at the walls of Pompeii. There's some really funny stuff there. It's so funny.
I love the people.
It's like, Joe's dad sucks. And then everyone's just like, oh, Joe's dad never knew that he wrote.
No, really,
down. It's really funny.
Most of them are either relating to calling their friends gay or themselves gay. It's like 80% of them because it was
really
because
funny.
it was Rome. So
it's really funny.
It was first century Rome. So they talk about Tamar, and as I would have expected, they're like we can't say it, but we can skirt really closely around it, really close, and try and make it sound as bad as we can without explaining it. And they're like, we're really trying to punch home, he did a really bad thing that we can't tell you about, but trust us, you should be angry. And I'm like, I feel like it takes away from the emphasis of like understanding the scenario, not...
Yeah, because when they said, like, he did something really bad, like, messed with her honor, I was like, okay, like, what does that mean? Because just, like...
I can't believe you didn't realize what they were talking about.
No, I didn't, because, like, in that time, just, like, telling a girl to, like, mind her own business and sew dresses or something like that, instead of, like, doing something else could be an insult to her honor. Like, there's so many, like... little things that could be considered like a slight.
Well, yeah,
but
this wasn't a slight. I mean,
yeah,
even
I
what they
imagine
said
it'd be
here.
something like a little bit trivial, in all honesty. And then Devin told me when we were on the bus this morning, and I was like, "Oh, that is very different."
Yeah, that's why they couldn't specify what it was.
I was like, "That is a lot worse than I expect," because I thought it'd be something like that actually wasn't that bad, but was a little bad because I thought they wanted to paint Absalom more.
Oh man, I just realized I just realized exactly what this is. Carbon copy. This is the like negative 10th century version of 19 Kids and Counting.
Yeah,
it's the exact same thing.
Honestly, like there are some families in the Bible where it's just like, oh, you were the Skywalkers of the Bible. You guys are a hot mess. I remember I came home from the grocery store. I was almost done part 1. I just heard the thing about how, like, there was the inter-sibling murder and stuff. I came in, and I was just like, Devin, listening David and Absalom. He's like, how is that? I was like, David's kids were a hot mess. And then I, like, kept on walking.
You're correct.
Yeah.
I mean, statistically, that was likely just based on how many he had.
Yeah, this episode tricked me into thinking, like, maybe I was wrong about having, like, a bunch of kids and he only has a couple.
No, he had, like, dozens of children.
I mean, that's not as bad as some other people in the Bible, but way more. I'm looking at you, Solomon.
How many children did Solomon have?
No, wait.
That's wives and concubines.
I thought he would have had a lot of kids.
He did have a lot of kids, but David had like 19 wives too.
19 wives and counting.
Yeah.
I always have to look up
David,
what hot mess means because I always forget. And
people
I'm
just don't talk about it with David as much
mean?
Because his son outclassed him by like an order of magnitude.
What's the difference between a mess and a hot mess? Is it like you still look good, but you're a mess?
Yeah, I guess that's
I've
one
had
way
to Google it multiple times. It's really embarrassing.
Back to the episode. Matthew is shocked to find out that David's done bad stuff.
It's almost like he's a human being and not Jesus.
Olivia's like, did you know that he killed Uriah the Hittite so we could take Bathsheba? And Matthew's like,
Honestly, like, when I
And I
heard
was like-
that it was gonna be an episode that had to do with David and, like, him not being a good person, I was like, oh my gosh, am I gonna have to hear the Uriah story again? And I thought it'd be, like, they would go over that in detail, because whoever Absalom was, that would have happened around the same time. Or it would have just been, like, highlights of David's worst moments of being a person or something
The
like
roast
that
of
throughout
King
time.
David.
Yeah, pretty much. And it was gonna, like, the climax was gonna be, like, who Absalom was and what he did with him and what happened between him and stuff. And so, like, I was like, this is really nice. I don't have to hear about Uriah and Bathsheba for, like, the 500th time. And then you're like, hey, did you hear about this guy named Uriah? I was like, no, you don't. We were doing so good.
There's absolutely no way I would ever believe that Matthew does not know the story of Bathsheba.
Honestly, I think that's, like, one of the most famous things with David in the Bible. I think most people know that.
There are two things people know about David. He killed Goliath and he slept with Bathsheba. Those are, like, his, by far and away, his top two stories. It was, like, the best thing he did and the worst thing that he did.
With Bathsheba, I'm like, girl, why were you walking around naked on the roof, for one?
She was having a bath.
Yeah, but why was her bath outside on the roof?
Because that's how people did it back then.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, honestly, like...
She wasn't, like, being an exhibitionist.
Devin,
he was peeping at her in
why,
the privacy of her own home.
When in King George and the Rubber Ducky, when Junior's having a bath, it's, like, outside and in clear sight.
Yes.
Not just because of the Rubber Ducky thing, but also because it's, like, a reference.
Yes, and it does put kind of a weird, disturbing spin on it when you think about it.
I was like, Larry, why are you watching Junior bathe? What's wrong with you?
Anyways, part 2. I hope Kathy's children are watching this episode. So, part 2 happens, and Whit shows up. Wait, no he doesn't.
No, okay. Devin, can you reenact what happened on the bus when I was listening to this?
It's the exact same thing that happened when I listened to the episode.
That's good. I'm pretty sure the way you mentioned it, I'm pretty sure we had the exact chain of thought in the exact order.
Because you narrated your thought process to me.
I did.
Which was...
Can you...
Oh, sorry.
All those other things.
Your thought process was completely identical to what mine was. So
we were, like, talking at the same time.
Whit shows up, and I was like, "Oh, Whit joined the adventure. That's weird. It normally doesn't do that unless, like, something's going wrong or it's a new program or something like that."
I was like, "Is the Imagination Station adventure not going how it's supposed to go?
Yeah,
that's very bad."
And I was like, oh, okay, so Whit has, like, ingrained himself in part of the story, too, which Matthew had done, so that makes sense and stuff. And I was like, no one's called out that he's Whit, but I mean, Matthew and Olivia haven't seen him, so that makes sense. Like, I was like, I wonder when he's going to go meet up with them.
Matthew and Olivia never talked to him, so I was like, oh, they probably haven't seen him yet, because he's, like, standing a little bit away, and then they're going to see him and be like, Mr. Whitaker, what are you doing here?
He's not even just a self-insert OC, he's an Easter egg self-insert OC. He's not a fanfic writer, Victoria. He's a game dev. No. So yeah, I was like, after he's like, okay, yeah, I'll go spy on the people and stuff.
My first
and then I was like, wait, so
is this?
No, it's
no. Okay, what my exact wording? Because I forgot what was it. Benjamin Franklin.
Yes.
Okay, I forgot what Benjamin Franklin's name was, and I forgot what the Declaration of Independence was called at the time, because my brain has not been good words this week. And so I was like, wait, is this like with the thing with the guy who's like, you know, it's the paper, but like national treasure guy who helped
Victoria.
Yeah.
Do you think that Ben Franklin wrote the Declaration of Independence?
I thought he helped work on it. I don't know.
Jefferson wrote the Declaration.
I'm not in American history anymore. I'm in German history now. I feel like with all my different history classes, I've learned less and less about each place. And definitely I learned the least in history of China, because every now and then I think, oh no, I didn't understand anything in that assignment. I'm going to do so bad. I'm like, wait, no, I haven't done that for like a year. So, like, that's nice. I still feel like I didn't learn anything in that class. I learned a bit about Marco Polo and elephants, relating to Marco Polo, but I think that's it.
Do you mean Hannibal?
No, Marco Polo, because he thought he went to China at one point. Or maybe it wasn't Marco Polo, it was someone else, but like this famous explorer. But then
Marco Polo did go to China.
Okay, yeah, that was Marco Polo, except for it's like really probable that he actually made up the whole going to China thing and actually only went to India and then just came back and he was like, guys, I saw elephants and I went to China.
Where did he get, didn't he trade, like, didn't he bring silk to Europe, though?
He brought stuff, but it wasn't from China, most likely.
But India didn't have silk, did it?
No, it probably wasn't India, but
Okay,
it wasn't
anyways.
China that he went to.
Anyways, this is not germane. So, yeah, Whit is just programming self-inserts for himself now. I was so confused. I refused to believe that this was not Whit actually in the imagination station because I was like, this isn't just Andre. He did not change his voice. This is just Whit's voice, like unaltered, no accent or anything. My brain first went to
And honestly, when Andre
Frank.
does a different voice, like, you can usually tell it's Andre, but that's just because you're so familiar with his voice. It's like when Katie does a voice and you know it's her.
Yeah, it was the same thing where
someone who's a new listener won't realize it's them, but if you've listened to every episode like we have and we know what they sound like really well, then you'll, after like a minute or two of listening, you'll probably be able to be like, oh, I think that's Andre in this part. But with this, I was like, why is Whit there? I'm so confused. And it was really especially bad because I kept on forgetting he wasn't Whit. So lots of things would happen. I'd be like, wait, why aren't you reacting this way? And yeah.
Excuse me.
I don't know if that happened to you too.
I had the thought in my mind where it's like, maybe he is doing a different voice, but I'm so used to Andre's voice that I'm not even realizing it's him because I'm just like, oh, it's Andre.
Really closely.
Because it's the same thing where sometimes like I was so confused when I would hear Katie Lee playing like young boys, and I didn't realize they were supposed to be young boys because to me, it was just, this is Katie Lee's voice. I know that it's Katie Lee. Why is she, like, I don't get it. So I thought it was like, maybe...
Does Connie have a cold?
I was like, maybe Andre does sound a little bit different, but I know his voice so well that it's not, my brain isn't even picking it up.
Honestly, I
don't
want to put the blame
nope,
anywhere, but I think, like, if it had to be placed, it might have to do with the directing more than Andre.
No, well, no, I'm not blaming it on Andre.
I know, I'm not really blaming it on, I don't know, because I'm trying to figure out, like, why the voice isn't different.
Yeah, I know, it's strange.
Yeah, it bothers me, honestly. It kind of pulls you out, because you keep on thinking, oh, that's Whit, but it's not Whit.
So he's a spy, and and David's like, also that scene, and there's just like the old guy up on the mountain, and he's just yelling and shaking his fist for 5 minutes, and the entire rest of the scene keeps on going while he's in the background, just yelling curses at David. Is great.
Amazing. And then that one guy whose name I can't pronounce. Ahitophel is
Ahitophel?
Hatoful. Okay, that
Ahitophel boyfriend.
Ahitophel boyfriend is like, David, should we do something about the guy who's like just yelling profanities at you? And David's like, nah.
That wasn't Ahitophel.
Oh, I thought it was.
He worked for Absalom. He was Absalom's advisor.
It's it's the guy whose name starts with a J, right?
Joab?
Yeah. Is it him?
Maybe, probably.
For some reason, I thought Ahitophel's was Joab because they just said his name so many times.
They did say his name a lot.
I was like, he must be that guy who's in the episode a lot. So they just said
Joab's the general of David's army. He's the one who killed Uriah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Cordially,
Joab.
Joab.
That was him. Oh, he's the cordially Joab guy.
Because he's David's general.
At the beginning of the episode when Matthew and Olivia first got there, I thought Joab was David for a minute. And he was, like, being a jerk. And I was like, David, why are you being so much more mean than usual? Like, what's your deal?
And then you listened to the rest of the episode and you were like, David, why are you being so mean?
I think everyone needs to chill a little bit in this.
Everyone is problematic.
Everyone is problematic.
That's the lesson for today.
That is, honestly, yeah, that is the lesson for today. That
Yeah.
everyone is problematic, except for God and Jesus. I liked this episode. I think it had, like, a really good lesson. And honestly, I haven't been this excited about, like, hearing a Bible story in Odyssey ever since, like, the old Bernard episodes. Because, like, I remember I finished part 1 and I was super excited because I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen with this story. I honestly thought it was going to end with Absalom killing David, and I was like, I don't know what was going to happen. I was, like, really excited. I was like, Devin, I don't know this story. I get to, like, be excited about it and stuff, and, like, as I try to figure out what's going to happen. I'm sure you learned this in
Sunday school and you just forgot about it.
Maybe, probably. I feel like I would have remembered it, though. I'm pretty good at remembering.
I mean, I definitely learned it in Sunday school, so I imagine you would have as well.
Maybe. I don't know. But, anyway, I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Does Absalom kill David? For some reason, whenever I imagined Absalom killing David, it wasn't, like, with a sword or anything. It was by him shooting him with a gun, and I just really thought about that now, and I'm like, no, that's not how that works.
Okay.
Back then.
He just stabbed him with a lightsaber?
Yeah, he stabs him with... Well, I mean, like, Star Wars does happen in the past. So...
You were correct.
I am.
Touche.
So, get on my level.
Why don't they just say at the beginning, like, a while ago somewhere else?
That's what
they literally do!
But, yeah, I was like, Devin, I don't know what's gonna happen. You're like, go read your Bible. And I was like, no, I want to live it out in the episode.
I want to live it for real in this audio drama.
For real.
In this fictional episode.
So Segoy, I have to know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. These episodes, honestly, so it's like...
I really liked them.
I like it, and there's, like, you know, you usually get, like, lots of good audio design and stuff out of the fighting and stuff. I find, personally, for me, I often have trouble keeping up with, like, all the names and locations and double crossings unless I've listened to it a whole bunch of times, or if it's, like, a story with which I'm really strongly familiar, source material-wise. Mm-hmm. I think I'll have to listen to it a few times before, like, the whole thing, like, really sinks in.
I think I need to listen to it a couple more times.
I read through, like, after I finished it,
with all the names.
I read through, like, a summary online of Absalom's story, just helped me, like, redigest it in my mind and to make sure I got down, like, what stuff did they put in the episode and what stuff is, like, direct from scripture. I could have just read this.
What stuff was left out, Devin?
It was pretty there. Well, I mean, of what I read. I was like, I could read all 7 chapters of what actually happened, but, I mean, you know, like, Kings...
You were busy today.
The stuff in Kings and Chronicles is so, like...
King Chronicles.
Yeah, there's so much, like, overlap, and also, like, non-overlap in terms of the story, you know, because it's like telling the same thing twice. It's
can you do that?
You don't need to go like that and flip your hands. You can just start like that immediately.
I don't.
You just put your hands together, but you put your middle fingers towards your palm.
Ow.
There you go.
Wait, no.
Middle fingers, there you go.
I did it!
Yeah, because, like, Chronicles is summing up, basically, like, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, and so there's the timelines of it is confusing. I was like, if I just read about Absalom here, I don't know if there's other things that pertain to the story that are, like, somewhere completely different, and I'm not going to get the whole thing, and other context and stuff, so I might as well just read a summary instead of trying to, like, read all 6 books, which could contain pertinent information
here. My spine is
here.
bruised, it hurts to sit back.
But yeah, no, it seemed to basically cover the gist of what happened. Yeah, did a decent job. David's family.
I thought it was good.
Had their issues.
They did have their issues. I liked this episode. I thought it was good. Okay, bonus stuff.
Yeah, there's a bonus feature.
Bonus features. We haven't gotten one of those in a little bit.
They're
always fun, especially when they talk about how they made the episode. And not
and
like...
when there's bloopers.
And not like, oh yeah, in this episode, we made this shout out to this lady named Janet. Hi, Janet. And then the bonus ends. That's not calling on anything. I couldn't think of a good
Okay,
example.
yeah, I was like,
but there,
are you trying to
there
make a
are
Good Place
some...
joke? Or...
No. Oh, no, I wasn't. That was just... I don't know, I just said that name. But, yeah, I will say, there are some bonus things that are not as good as some other bonus things, or as, like, interesting.
Uh-huh.
Which you agree with, right?
Yes. So, yeah, Phil talks about how the episode came together, how it was originally going to maybe be OT Action News.
I'm so glad it wasn't, because I don't like OT Action News.
And then they made an IS episode. He brings up all the pronunciation in the episode, which, did it occur to you during the episode, like, how much more than usual in Bible stories there was in terms of names and places?
No, I didn't pick up on it until there was, like, the clip montage.
Because it did occur to me at some point, I was like, there's a lot of long names in this episode, like, more than usual.
I mean, I'm really bad with names, so it's not like I was going to remember any of them anyway, so I forgot all of them immediately after I heard them.
So
Except for Joab, because
apparently,
I know who he is now.
Apparently, Mark Hurwitz is like an expert on Hebrew pronunciation, and it's fun because he played Ahitophel in this episode, and he's obviously played like...
Oh, that's how it's spelled.
That's not how it's spelled. I was just phoneticizing. I can't read longer than that.
See, what I would have done if I was the actors, if they're allowed... I assume they're allowed to write on their scripts.
Yeah.
Because you hear things about, like,
yes,
if it's not
yellow, it ain't red.
Yellow, they ain't red. I would have written all the phonetic spellings of, like, the characters every single time they appeared, but I guess since there's so many names, that may take a little bit.
Also, remember that it was a little harder than that, because they were pronouncing it, like, vaguely phonetically correct, but he was trying to, like, get them actually, like, properly correct.
Yeah, but sometimes there were people who were, like, completely way off base, so writing it phonetically might help, but this is also coming from the person who could not pronounce the word facility correctly at all for an audio thing I had to do with Austin and Tasha. And Felicity. I had to, like, I kept on saying Felicity for, like, half an hour, and it's, like, very cringeworthy.
It was funny.
It was funny to all of you.
It did get frustrating after a point.
It was very frustrating. I think
like,
I cried a
Victoria,
bit.
I want to do something else. We've been sitting here for 20
minutes. How do you think I felt? You were yelling at me.
So yeah, Mark Hurwitz, who's played a bunch of other characters as well, like a couple dozen. I scanned through, because as soon as I heard his voice, I was like, who is that? I know your voice.
Who are you?
It was mostly one-shot characters. The character that I looked at that was the most instantly like, oh yeah, I can hear that voice in my head, was Dr. Foster from the Eugene Returns trilogy.
Friends. From the what trilogy?
Sorry?
From the what trilogy?
Eugene Returns. I'm Dr. Foster with the National Institute of Health.
Yeah, Dr. Foster.
Yeah, so that was him. And he made sure everyone said everything correctly. So that was nice. And they had an entire gag reel of just people trying to say Ahitophel correctly and nothing else.
Once again, Devin and I, our brains went to the same place, and we're like, wow, Chris must have been really glad that, like...
Yeah.
She
was the one person for once who didn't have to say all
I would have just sat there if I was Chris, and I would be like, now you know. Now you know what it's like to be me.
I found out that I've been pronouncing Ephraim wrong this entire time.
You've been pronouncing what?
Ephraim, like the tribe of Israel.
Ephraim?
I always say, like, Ephraim.
Ephraim?
I was saying it with the right number of syllables,
Is it like
but I was
Elysium,
like, I was doing
Ephraim?
it more like Aim instead of like Aim. Like I was making the A too hard this whole time. No.
Ephraim. Is that it?
Nope.
Oh. I'm bad at pronouncing things.
And Manasseh. I think I got that one more correct as far as Joseph's sons go.
Manasseh. That sounds like a cool name to call your friend. It's like, hey, Manasseh, and then you high five. It's all need to be hanging.
Do you even know who those are?
No.
University.
What? No. Do I want? No.
They're tribes of Israel, Victoria.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's like a big thing.
So?
Like Judah and Issachar and Gad and Zebulun, all them.
Yeah.
Ruben.
I wouldn't
Levi.
be weirded out if someone came up to me and was like, "Hey, Killo," and gave me a high five.
Well, no, I'm just...
Actually, I would be weirded out because I might not know them. Then they would be giving me a high five.
No, I'm just...
My last name, kind of.
I'm just saying those are names that you should know.
Yeah, probably. I'm forgetful when it comes to names. We've already been over this.
And then they also, in the bonus thing, they had a bunch of raw audio of Keith Ferguson doing, like, his whole 5-minute long rant as Shimmy standing up on the cliff, being the angry old dude
Phil,
yelling.
It was so funny.
Curses.
Phil was, like, so proud of himself because he was just like, I looked up all these Old Testament curses and I wrote them down for him to yell. And he sounded, like, so happy. And I was just like, you know what, Phil? If this is what makes you happy, then... good for you.
I thought it was pretty funny.
I
mean, I was like, it
was
makes
really
sense because they
funny.
needed to pad it out, but there was only one paragraph in the actual story.
And some
of
of
what
the
he
curses
said.
were like so funny. It was like, I curse your kneecaps to get struck by lightning, and I was like, oh dang.
There's a lot of curse yelling in
There
Deuteronomy.
was. It was really fun. I was waiting for like the kind of comedy level curses you would hear in, like, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That's what I was waiting for.
That would have been fun if
didn't
they had
get
snuck
there,
that in there.
But, like, that'd be so funny.
In the part where you could barely hear because it's just, like, it's fully in the background audio-wise.
Mother stank of elder... Or your father?
Yeah.
Your father stank of elderberries. Really quietly in the background.
So, yeah, that's David and Absalom. Final thoughts.
I liked it. I got to learn a lot of new stuff. I think that's always cool when you learn new things, especially about the Bible and like stories you did not know before. Because I know a lot, and I like to get put in my place when it comes to me not knowing Bible stories. Which
Good. You must love it. Every time I tell you to just read your Bible, then that's how you'll learn the stories.
I think the moral was really good. The music. Oh, we didn't touch on the music. The music in this episode
it was another
dang good.
It was another Jared De Pascal composed episode.
I have this rule of thumb. I always say thumbs. It's just thumb. Where
I don't think it would have counted if it was a rule of thumbs. It's what a terrible name, by the way. Why can't we eliminate that expression from the English language?
But, like, I have this rule of thumb where if I'm watching, like, a TV show
Wait, are you saying that because it's bad or because you don't know what it means?
I don't know why it has to do with thumbs.
You don't?
No.
Because the original rule of thumb was...
does it have to do with cutting off your thumb somehow?
No, it's like, to protect women and make life better for them, you are now only allowed to beat them with things that are thinner than your thumb.
Oh, I remember that.
Yes.
I remember learning... You might have been the one that told me about
It's terrible.
Yeah. I think I learned about that in
I mean, obviously, when they came up with it, it was technically a step forward.
It was.
But
when it came to domestic abuse.
It's still terrible.
Okay, so I have this rule of...
What a depressing episode of discussion topics.
It is. Sorry about that.
I mean, we're talking about the Old Testament, so what do you expect?
Yeah. There's some happy things in the Old Testament. You can read your Bible, Devin. Go find them. I showed him.
I'm reading Deuteronomy, Victoria. There's nothing happy in there.
Isn't that just like a bunch of laws for like...
And a lot of... I mean, it starts out with a lot of summary of like the 40 years journey, and then it goes into like
cheery
more law stuff.
Anyway,
and then I believe it ends with Moses dying.
I have this rule when it comes to like media, where if I notice the music, and by notice the music I mean like in a positive way, or like it sticks out to me in a moment where I should be paying attention to something else, then that means it's doing a good job. So, like, this happened.
I mean, technically, that's the opposite goal of the rule of thumb for composition.
I mean, like, if it sticks out to me in a good way.
No, I know, but...
No, if it, like, adds to the moment, and it's also really good, and I could totally see myself listening to it as a standalone thing.
I'm just saying, usually
and I actually can remember enjoying it.
Composers usually say the rule of thumb for music is that their goal is that you don't notice the music consciously.
Well, I thought this music was really good. That also happened to me with The Last Jedi. I like the score in that movie, but and like a bunch of other things. But yeah, I think the score was really good. It wasn't John Campbell doing it.
Nope.
It was
Jared De Pascal.
Yeah, he does some episode sounds.
He does very cinematic music.
Yeah.
Which
Man,
they also talked
like,
about in the bonus feature as well.
It just clicked for me that we're gonna have guests in like a day.
Yeah.
But like mentally, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Yeah, I know. I've been cleaning and cooking all day because of that, so it's
I've been doing homework. I also slept, but that's because I was in immense pain and I needed to calm down. And I was also really tired. I was up last night very late watching The Good Place. It's a good show.
It's a good show. I think it's one of those shows where I'm like, I know this is like a mainstream thing, but I think that even if purely as a thought experiment, that like most Christians would benefit from consuming this media.
Yeah.
And like
just the thing about making it you think about being a better person.
Well, I just mean overall, like just conceptually, their ideas of like goodness, morality, concepts of like what heaven and hell mean and stuff like that.
Like making you get existential, kind of.
Like all of it.
All right.
I think people in general, I think all of us are so like ingrained in the tradition of what we're raised on, ideas about things, that we always need to try as hard as we can to like shake up our assumptions about the way that stuff works, because we just like get these ideas that are founded in, you know, maybe it's scripture, maybe it's tradition, maybe it's assumption from a young age, whatever, and we just like stick to them, and sometimes we just need to shake them up. We need thought experiments and hypotheticals to help us like broaden our thoughts about how things could work or what things might be and stuff. I mean, that's why The Great Divorce was what it was. It was like C.S. Lewis was like, I don't necessarily think that this is the way the afterlife works, but here's an interesting idea that I'd like to share with you all. Anyways,
very off topic. We've got off topic so much in this episode. I'm very sorry. My final rating, I'd say, is a solid 4 out of 5. Like, I think about 0.5 of that is taken off because of the whole confusion with Whit's voice, because it was actually, I'm not trying to be, like, petty about it or anything. It actually did really confuse me, and it took me out of the moment a lot, in all seriousness. So, what about you? What's your rating?
So yeah, it was a good episode. They covered a relatively overlooked story in the Old Testament. I like that we finally got to focus on like mistakes that David have made that isn't Bathsheba and Uriah for once.
What? I thought he only made the one mistake.
Yeah.
But
that was his one. That was his mulligan. No.
Okay, David, you're allowed to have one, but that's it.
And David went for a doozy. Yeah, no, it was good. I liked, like you said, or tried to say, like, I liked the theme of being like,
oh, yeah,
hey,
I messed up on how I said it, but
yeah, but no, I know what you mean.
Everyone knows what I meant, so that's what matters. They all know I'm bad with words by this point.
You know, hey, people suck. All people suck, even if they're, whether, you know, they're like a rebellious heartthrob exile prince.
Even if they quote unquote did nothing wrong.
Yeah, or if they're a man after God's own heart, they still done screwed things up. And that applies to everyone. Some of them did it more than others and in different ways and different times and different degrees. But everybody's problematics. We can pull receipts on everyone. And so we can understand, hey, we can look up to people and we can admire things people have done, but we need to understand that they are not perfect. We need to temper our expectations and our understandings of things and take things with grains of salt. And that's a good theme.
I don't think that, like, having heroes is a bad thing who are people.
No, I don't think that's what this episode is saying.
I know. I think, like, just look at it as it is. Like, just think about all the, like, try and model yourself after the good things.
Yeah, try and
and not the
understand.
bad
Try and
things.
understand that they're human, so
Yeah,
you can like.
Try and understand that everyone
You're
messes
gonna.
up.
I mean, the episode never says don't have heroes. It says don't hero worship.
Yeah.
So look up to people, but just be discerning about it. Be discerning about who you pick, and be discerning about
a good way to
what
put it.
aspects of them you look up to, and be constantly spiritually vigilant about like the people that you're following and what aspects of them you're looking up to.
Can you imagine if it was like, okay, give your rating and then I'll say
3.8.
Okay.
And
so,
it was good, and Matthew and Olivia were good at it.
Yeah,
and
they were good
like
at it.
they did the like trade places thing. So
I'm glad they traded
they got
places
to,
and
like,
they got to meet both people.
because it allowed them to like swap their perspectives, because they both got like these biased opinions, and then they got to swap.
I still don't really get how Olivia was like supposed to, like, if it weren't for the fact that she found Absalom really hot, I feel like she wouldn't have learned her lesson. So, anyway, because her thing had to do with like considering someone else completely a hero, and if she wasn't really paying attention to what was happening with Matthew, then
Well, she was like, it's
that
fine
would've
as
been a
long as
deal.
it's a real person.
um.
How dare you look up to fictional characters, Matthew?
You are a fictional character. I am! Can you imagine if, like, they came out of the imagination station, Olivia's like, you know what, Matthew? You're my hero. And he's like, well, you're my hero. And Whit's like, no, guys! I'm supposed to be your heroes. Why do you think I put my OC in it? It was supposed to be, like, subliminal messaging. Like, Whit should be your hero. But you didn't pick up on. That's why he was actually there. I
That does
figured
make
it out.
sense.
Yeah.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
Honestly,
You
when
think you're sneaky, Whit,
when
but
you're
I'm
talking
on,
about it
babe.
earlier, and you had some like revelation or something, I don't remember what it was, but what I thought you were gonna say when you were like, was that this was gonna tie into like the Imagination Station books and like more of
That's what you say every single time you have an epiphany
It's like
about
more-
the Imagination
it's
Station.
like,
I
no,
actually have
but it's like more of Whit finding out about his ancestors that look just
No,
like
'cause
him, the
every
people
single
that he's
time you're
related
like,
to.
I have an idea about this thing with Whit in the Imagination Station that applies to real Odyssey. It's always about the books, and whenever I say it,
Well, what
it's
else
always
would it
like
be?
a joke.
Oh yeah, because I'm so serious about everything.
Why so serious? I did a Bane voice while doing the Jared Leto hand position.
While quoting a line from a different
Heath
Joker
Ledger.
iteration. Alright, Victoria needs to go to sleep now. Yeah, at least you're not wearing your Batman shirt right
I almost did wear it, actually. I just got this Jason Todd shirt the other day, and I really like it. It's very comfy.
We should let y'all go. What are you talking about next time, Victoria?
Macy makes the big cake.
Uh-huh.
And...
Do you remember what it's actually called? Rewinding?
The big picture.
Correct?
What's the one we're doing with it?
We're doing Dead Ends.
Oh, right, yeah. So
Yes.
you wanted to do that one.
Yeah.
And that's all for today, folks.
You beat me to it. You beat me to the Porky Punch.
Ew, that sounds good.
Alright.
Why did you word it that way?
It wasn't weird until you made it weird.
You made it weird.
I
by
did
saying
not.
it. People are gonna watch. It's gonna be the first episode some people watch. They're never gonna watch another one.
Can only hope. Can only hope that this will be the thing to deter them away from the black hole that's our channel.
Go watch.
So that's what we're doing next time.
Go watch the BTV Revenge review.
Until then, thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. I've been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Monster.
And I am a nice giraffe.
And you have been watching The Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.